Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Watson Michael from Ceylon Institute of English and Leadership. And today we have with us Mr. Mark Crowley, who is the author of Lead from the Heart, Transformational Leadership for the 21st Century. And his mission is to fundamentally change how we lead people in workplaces and around the globe. Mark is a regular columnist for the Fast magazine and has been published in USA Today, Reuters, Forbes, the Stanford Social Innovation Review, the Huffington Post, Gallup, the Financial Times, CEO Magazine, Great Britain, and the Seattle Times. His two LinkedIn Pulse articles on inspiring 21st century workforce and managing millennials have been read well over 1 million times. So Mark, welcome, and how are you doing today?
Thank you, Watson. I'm great. I'm ending my day and you're starting yours.
Yeah. So Mark, why did you name this book Lead from the Heart, Transformational Leadership for the 21st Century?
You know, it's a wonderful question to start off with, and I honestly don't have a whole lot of experience in countries like Sri Lanka and India and Pakistan. So the word heart may not have as much of a charge as it does in the West, but we use the word leadership and heart together in the United States or Great Britain or Canada. They think you're insane. They think you must not understand, like you missed a meeting or something. And the point is that we think, when we think of the heart, we tend to think of the Valentine heart, the love heart, and we conflate it with soft management. So, you know, in business, we think we have to be hard on people and produce. So anybody that says heart is nuts, is crazy. So now you're asking me, well, why is it in the title then? Like, why would you put it in there? Are you not a smart person? And the reason is because what I've discovered is that there is science, medical science, that has proved that the heart here and the mind are connected, and that the heart influences our choices and our behaviors and our engagement at work, our happiness at work, how productive we are in more ways than we could ever imagine. So the reason it's in the title is because what I'm saying is fundamentally the idea of squeezing people, abusing people, managing people with fear and intimidation is the opposite of what our biology wants us to do. We want to work for somebody who's going to affect this because this influences our choices and our behavior.
Right. So that's very true. Okay. So I mean, leading from the heart is something not many do, but that's great leadership skills, right? So we see the great resignation continues, especially in the US. So what are your views on that? Because I would say like millions of people have quit their jobs.
100 million people quit their jobs in the United States in 2 years, and that's a record. And when they went out and surveyed those people, they said, "Did you quit so you could get more money?" You would think that that's why most people would quit their jobs, right? And particularly if there are more jobs than there are people, which is what the situation's been. So people think, "Oh, I'm going to go get a pay raise and I'm going to quit my job." But that's not what people said. What people said was, "I did go for a paycheck or pay increase, but I wouldn't leave my job if I was happy. And the reason I wasn't happy is because the person that I worked for wasn't caring about me, wasn't supporting me, wasn't educating me, coaching me, encouraging me, rewarding me, appreciating me, all of those kinds of things." So when we hear all these people leaving, we just think, "Oh, well, they got a big pay cut, pay raise. They just made more money. So of course they're going to leave." But I don't know about you, Watson, but I mean, if you've ever quit a job, it's
Yeah.
disruptive. You lose your friends, you lose your
Mhm.
tenure, you lose your routines. It's disruptive to quit a job. So when 100 million people leave, and the majority of them say that they didn't specifically leave for pay, they
Yeah.
left for a bad manager, we've got a problem in leadership.
Yeah, Mark. So we all want that good boss who, when I was in corporate as well, I mean, like few years back, and I mean, even today, I hear many people saying that we need a good boss who understands us and they look for growth as well. So sometimes in some certain places that is lacking. So yeah. So yes. So Mark, like ironically, most of us were told the heart has no place in workplace management, right? So in fact, most of us were taught that the heart acts like kryptonite leadership, right? So what are your views on that? If you
Are you familiar with what kryptonite is?
no,
Okay,
yeah,
you have to give you a little history. So, are you
sure,
familiar with Superman? You ever
of
heard of
course,
Superman?
yeah, planet
Well,
Krypton.
remember, kryptonite is what made him take all of his powers away.
Hmm.
So, when Superman was around kryptonite, he had no power. So the idea is that if you, because you were just saying, we all want to work for a caring boss,
Yeah.
but most bosses think that if they do that, they're going to lose their power. If
Hmm.
I'm nice to you, if I care about you and I support you, we
Yeah.
think that you're going to take advantage of me. You're not going to do your work. You're not going to be productive. So
Yeah.
I've got to be on you all the time. Where are you? What are you doing? Get back to work. That's what we think bosses need to do. Now,
Hmm.
it's not to say that you're not supposed to tell people what their job is and be clear on it and what the expectations are. Leadership is about getting results, but
Yeah.
how you go about getting them is what I'm arguing is that if you put people into fear, you're undermining their sense of well-being. And when you undermine their sense of well-being, they can't perform optimally. And we've
Yeah.
never thought of this. We think if I keep you in fear, if I tell you, Watson, if you don't do a good job, I'm going to fire you. You're
Hmm.
going to lose your job. You're going to
Yeah.
work really hard, but
Hmm.
not sustainable.
Yeah.
So it's got to be this balance between helping people, caring about people, supporting people, and also keeping focused on the work. You
Yeah.
can do, we think it's one or the other, and it's not.
Yeah, fair enough. Mark, what are your views on like we see these days in many articles, either on newspapers or either on LinkedIn, we see a lot of people talking about empathy in the workplace. What are your views on empathy?
Um, so empathy is understanding that someone is in some kind of pain, right?
Mm,
So let's say, for example, that I find out that your mother is very sick and has been put in the hospital. So you missed a day of work. So where empathy comes into play is I say, oh, that must be hurting
mm,
Watson. His mother's in the hospital. But where I go is empathy does not nobody any good. Just because
mm,
you're empathetic doesn't mean anything's better. Compassion is doing something about it.
mm,
That doesn't mean that I, as your boss, am going to come to the hospital and visit you and your mom. I mean, you could, but that's not generally what any of us want.
yeah.
If I were your boss and I showed up at the hospital, you'd go, why are you here? Like, this is my mom, and this doesn't have anything to do with work. But
Mm,
if you come into work the next day and your mom's in the hospital and she's sick and you don't know what's going on, and I
yeah.
come up to you and I say, Watson, I understand your mom's in the hospital. I
Mm,
just learned this. And I just want you to know that I'm very sorry and I'm
yeah.
concerned about you. And
Yeah.
I want to do, if there's any accommodations that I can make, if you want to go see your mom, want to come in a little bit later to work for the next few days so you can to be with her, I'm happy to do that. Yes. So the difference is empathy acknowledges that you're in pain. Compassion is doing something about it. But what I'm arguing is it doesn't mean I solve it. It doesn't mean I call the doctors and go, hey, you got to help his mom, or I go visit you. It's simply letting you know that I want to help you to the extent that I possibly can because of what you're going through. And it affects people here. It matters to people. So if you came into work and I said nothing to you, you would feel hurt that your own boss couldn't even acknowledge the fact that your mom was in the hospital.
Yeah.
But the boss could have empathy. Boss could say, well, that's too bad. But not expressing it intentionally is the lack of compassion. And compassion is what actually affects people in a really powerful way.
Yeah. Yeah, well articulated, Mark. Right? So, yeah, so about that Kryptonite, now people might be thinking, where did I get that clause? Of course, I got that clause from Amazon, where Mark's book is there, right? So he has articulated it. So anybody watching this, if you get confused with that sentence, of course, this podcast is there for you, right? So 11 American universities, including a Big 10 conference MBA program and educational leadership and PhD programs, have adopted Lead from the Heart and made it a part of their course curriculums. Can we talk about it more?
You know, in education, let's go back.
Sure.
So let's say you are a manager today. Say you've been a manager and you've been promoted several times. So you're a big boss. And somebody comes along and says, we've been managing people all wrong and we need to adopt a new model. You're going to say, well, I got to the top by managing the old way. So why would I want to change? Well, in education, they don't have that experience. All they're doing is looking for what is the best research, the most compelling argument for how to do it. So where business resists, it's because you've got all these people saying, why should I change? I'm not going to change, because they feel vulnerable. They feel like it's not going to be effective. Whereas in education, they want the students to learn the most effective way to lead. So 11 universities have adopted the book because they don't have a dog in the fight. They're like, hey, this is the best way. This is what we want to be teaching. We want to be on the cutting edge. You take it to business, and businesses, no. I'm good at what I do, and I don't want to be changing, and so we resist it.
Yeah, so we have to always be open to change for the betterment of us, because the best anti-aging medicine also is lifelong learning, right?
You're right.
So, yeah. So, could you elaborate us on a chapter?
On a whole chapter?
Well, that's up to you. Yep.
Well, I think the one that I would highlight for you, Watson, is the 4th chapter of the book. And so basically, I was a senior leader, very high executive leader in a very large corporation.
Okay.
And I ended up leaving that job. And this is all part of this chapter that you want me to speak about.
Okay.
And in the process, I wanted to write what became the second half of the book. The first half of the book, a friend of mine said to me, you're going to have to explain the practices, why this works that you're prescribing. And I honestly thought that people, because of my experience and the level that I had and the success that I had, that once people understood that they would just take me at my word. And he said they won't. He said you're going to have data. So I started thinking about, well, what was my impact on people, and why did people perform so well for me and scale mountains for me? You know, the Himalayas where you are, so not too far from where you are. So people would scale mountains for me, right? And I over and over and over. So as I began to work on the book, I had to ask myself, well, what was I doing that was affecting people so much that they consistently worked this hard? And what I determined was that I believed I was affecting the hearts in people. And again, we think that that's soft and weak and bad management, but as my wife said to me when I told her that I'd wasted months on this book because no one's going to take me seriously, she said, well, haven't you already proven it? Don't you already know it's true? So go find research. So I spent over a year and a half going and forth. Not just that people all over the world are miserable in their jobs and really like dread going to work, but that there's science that shows that the heart is not just a pump and that it's integrated. It communicates through what's called the vagus nerve, and the heart is sending more signals to the brain than otherwise the brain sends. So what we're feeling in any given moment, the heart sends a signal, and the mind makes the decision on what to do about it. So if I'm unhappy, if I feel like my boss isn't caring about me, or I don't trust my boss, or they don't teach me or coach me, or they manage me here, I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling unhappy. I might even be feeling angry. So that sends the signal up to my mind, and the mind says, well, we're not going to work very hard today for this guy, because if that's how he's going to treat you, just, do as little as possible or quit. So that's how it works. So this is an important thing. We understand this is not a metaphor. It's literal science. So if you understand that, why would you ever manage somebody in fear? Why would you ever threaten somebody's job? You want them to feel good because it's the positive emotions and feelings that drive behavior. It's not the rational experience that we think it is.
Very true. So how would you could you let's say can you summarize this book in one sentence?
Love your people.
Wonderful. Right. So Mark, we thank you for taking time and doing this podcast with us. Also, any final message to all the viewers and listeners?
I think it's suspend your disbelief and take a deep, hard look at this. By the way, we just created, and I know you're not in India, but in the geography, we just created an Indian version of the book because there was enough demand. So that might be available to you as opposed to buying something in America. At least there's something in your continent. But the idea is really to open your minds. Like if people are quitting or people aren't doing good work, or you believe you could be doing better as a leader, take a good hard look at this, because it's breakthrough and it's proven and it's irrefutable. And the sooner you get on board, it's kind of like AI. It's like it's coming. And if you're not on board with it, you're going to lose, because people won't want to work for you when they find that there are managers that are managing in the way that I'm describing.
Yeah, very true. So, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you very
much for this podcast. Sure.
Nice meeting you, Watson.